Welcome back to Moose on the Loose, your source of uncorrupt media. My name's David. Today we're talking about another scandal, another greasy liberal scandal. We're talking about 1,700 emails deleted in the ArriveCan, the Arrive Scam scandal. Min Doan is the Liberals' chief technology officer. We're talking like chief technology officer. And somehow he won't tell why, but 4 years of his emails they just deleted. They just vanished. This is the guy that sent threatening messages to these two guys who worked at the CBSA. And these are the guys that say, please work with Christian, let Christian work his magic. I just want to make sure he gets taken care of right. If we piece this together, I'm thinking they set this up. Min Doan, maybe Erin O'Gorman, we don't know yet. She says she has nothing to do with it and she doesn't know anything about it. This is just my hypothesis. I think Min Doan worked with these two. And all three of them, plus Christian Firth and his other buddy that runs GC Strategies, Darren Anthony. Let's not forget, this is GC Strategies, the basement of this chalet. It's not a cottage. I'm thinking for this and probably a lot of those other deals, that $250 million, it's likely that Christian got Bottler and these other companies to work on this stuff, say $30 million. $30 million was then somehow divvied up between these guys. So how much Christian kept, he says, headhunter 30%, which still leaves another 10, 15 million that these guys could have divvied up. So maybe they all took 5 or 2.5, and 10 or whatever it is. There is something going on there because this is fishy. So we got Larry Brock here breaking it down in a committee meeting, and you'll see this is corrupt. What goes on here is corrupt.
I want to focus on this ArriveCan scandal that seems to be dominating House of Commons and Canadians from coast to coast. And following up on my colleague, Mr. Curick, I'm going to be focusing on you, Mr. Jones. It appears that you have some expertise in this particular area when it comes to technology and data and things of that nature. So at the heart of the scandal, and this may be news to you, is information. It's a lingering question that the Auditor General labored with, that despite all the material that she received from the CBSA, which didn't amount to a lot, given the shoddy paperwork and record keeping, is she was unable to determine who chose this two-person firm who received essentially $20 million of taxpayer funds for doing
Thieves.
Absolutely nothing other than connecting the CBSA with IT professionals. We have evidence to suggest that information was withheld from the Auditor General, and the information centers around one particular individual by the name of Min Doan, who happens to be the Government of Canada Chief Technology Officer. So one would think, just the label Chief Technology Officer, that person would possess the necessary skills to retain records. But at the heart of this, mysteriously, he had 4 years worth of relevant emails during the pandemic when the cost of this Arrive scam scandal ballooned to over $60 million. 4 years worth of emails constituting close to 1,700 emails in total just mysteriously disappeared. How can that happen?
Vamos.
Without knowing the circumstances, I can come up with a lot of different scenarios in the IT world. It could be something as simple as, and I've had this happen to me, the hard drive on my laptop failed and I lost my email.
Oh, crap.
Without the specific circumstances, I don't know how to answer your question.
Okay.
There's no way the government doesn't have a system to back up their emails. Give me a break. I've got a backup on my system for all my hiking footage. You can easily have emails backed up. They take literally no space. No, it's not that. It's not a hard drive dying.
That's been a lingering question. He's offered no explanation as to why he could not retrieve 4 years worth of emails. Despite his status, he was the vice president of the CBSA at the time. He was the chief information officer as well for the CBSA. He's unable to explain that discrepancy. So the CBSA president was unable to really shed any light as to the content.
Mr. Brock, we have a point of order from Ms. Khalid. Go ahead.
Of
Ms.
course.
Khalid. I've stopped your time. You have 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. We're just questioning relevance. I understand that the topic that Mr. Brock is highlighting is in study in a number of different committees. We are here on a very specific issue about the surveillance of government employees through government technologies with departments, and I would prefer, and I think that the community would appreciate if Mr. Brock stuck to that topic.
This woman is a corrupt liberal. She does this every time. She's the one who did it last time. She obviously doesn't care about getting back $20 million of taxpayers' money. That just says something for you right there for this woman. That's her name right there on the right here. Ikra Khalid.
Well, as I've said in the past, Ms. Khalid, that I do give a lot of latitude to members to ask their questions, and I expect that they're going to come back to the topic at hand, and I'm certain that Mr. Brock will. He's done it before, so the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Brock. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because I certainly don't frame my questions at the preference of the Liberal Party of Canada. All right? So I know they want to shut this down. I know it's important for them to silence us.
Point of
but I will
order,
not be
Chair.
silenced.
Absolutely unreasonable.
Thank
Come
you.
on.
Thank you for the point of order. Mr. Brock, please continue. You have the...
Brock's a savage.
I did stop your time. I'm starting it again. You have a
Thank
minute
you.
and 50 seconds.
So, Mr. Jones, I want to know what tools potentially the RCMP, who may be charged with the responsibility of investigating criminality surrounding this Arrive scam. I can think of, hearkening back to my days as a Crown attorney, what's jumping off the page is allegations of fraud, allegations of breach of trust by public official. So in your professional opinion, sir, what sort of forensic tools would be available to the RCMP to retrieve 4 years' worth of relevant emails from the Vice President of the CBSA?
My issue, I honestly have never been privy to any of the investigative techniques that the RCMP use. We've always kept them at arm's length as the IT service provider. We certainly provide them with the base IT.
What kind of tools would you adopt then? If, say, for instance, Erin O'Gorman, the president of the CBSA, actually took her job seriously and wanted to retrieve these emails, what sort of tools could you adopt?
So
He's a
if
savage.
my colleague was asking for advice, certainly that's what we've established these contracts for in terms of the tooling that are required to retrieve information from government-owned devices. And there's a variety of tools depending on the type of device that would be used. I don't have a product list in front of me. I don't memorize, I actually never used these tools in my career.
Possible to retrieve 4 years' worth of emails?
It depends on the circumstances where they're located and how you would have to go about them. It's always very dependent on the circumstances.
Specific,
Yes,
case specific.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brock. Thank you.
You can. First off, yes, you can. You can retrieve them. But what I've seen in some of the notes and some of the other reports is that it seems Min Doan has somehow moved the emails, and then he moved them again and moved them again and delete them. It's kind of like he's done different things to mask the trace of it and deleting it, thus trying to reverse the trace of the emails. I'm not a IT tech, but I know when I used to work in the video game industry, if somebody's computer would go down, the tech guy would always get their emails, get their stuff back. The government obviously has some sort of big server where all the stuff gets backed up. It's not going to be just on one guy's hard drive and it's his hard drive crashed. I guess I lost everything. Give me a break. It's going to be backed up. So obviously, if they are completely gone, then Min Doan went into the server and the backup server. I'm sure they have multiple backup servers and did some sort of weird thing to remove it from all of them. From what I hear, there's always a trace left there, no matter what. And someone who's good at that kind of reverse engineering of that could get all that stuff back. I don't know. Either way, something's really fishy. All I can say is get a jail cell ready for Min Doan because Bubba's horny and Bubba's ready. In all seriousness, this is obviously highly corrupt. It's not something to laugh at. But laughing at it is the only way to deal with this much corruption. Speaking of corruption, I got a bonus story for you guys here. So we've got Senator Don Plett. This is a conservative who's been asking for how much the CBC spent of our tax dollars on a failed, fraudulent lawsuit against the Conservatives from the last election, and they've stonewalled, they've pushed it back year after year after year. You can see 3 years of radio silence, and finally he got the number, $359,971. Almost $360,000 that CBC wasted on a failed, fraudulent lawsuit against the Conservatives. Here's his request for information. CBC radio total legal fees. This is obscene. There's only one way to equalize this out, and it would be firing Catherine Tate. You know, that would start to equalize things out a little bit, right? It's all sorts of stuff on here. While we're talking about corruption, we've got Devin Dreeshen, the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors for Alberta, who works with Daniel Smith, and it has basically come out, they're asking for funding for roads, and after, Stephen Guilbeault basically announced the other day there's no federal road spending, and then he backtracked and he said, oh, it's only for big projects. Alberta has 9 applications with the federal Liberal government for them to step up with cash for roads like twinning the Highway 3 across the southern part of the province. Basically, it's right here sums it up. 0 for 9, that's pretty absolute when it comes to not getting what we deserve. Considering how much Alberta contributes to the Confederation, them getting no funding is pretty ridiculous. As Dreeshen told the federal Liberal, if we were to play a hockey team and our power play was 0 for 9, we'd be asking some tough questions. So I don't know if that makes Stephen Guilbeault the GM, or is he the owner of the team? Either way, he needs to be fired, basically. A lot of corruption going on there. Alberta not receiving any support from the government. Maybe if they came back with a bill that required everyone to just cross-country ski to work or snowshoe, maybe they'd get some federal funding. So I'll keep you guys updated here what happens with all this, GC strategies, Mindone, all this. There's a whole bunch of corruption, and the Liberal Party is starting to crack it, and this house of cards is starting to fall down. I appreciate you stopping by watching the video today. Be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications so you're notified when I post more videos. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys in the next one.